the ability for your twisted brain that we all have and our broken hearts to make it about ourselves instead of what our mission is. How do you overcome that? What do you recommend to people who are getting into those positions?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. I think that risk is very real. I don't think it's one that you just have an answer to and that's it. You've solved it. I think it's something. If you're doing this kind of work day in, day out, and strangely people give you some kind of accolades for it, no matter how uncomfortable that might make you feel, and it does make me feel very uncomfortable, it can make you think the wrong way. Or not only that, you can start to get driven by different motives than you began with. You can get driven by numbers, for example. So, people are always amazed by the numbers of children that we're feeding every day. It's, as you say, it's over 1.6 million children every day. It's incredible, and the number keeps growing. And that's great in a way, because there's more children that need fed, so we want to feed them. So the growth's good, but subtle things can happen in your head, can't they? Like you start getting driven by the numbers, the big numbers, and I think it's so important we bring it back to why are we doing this? It's the child, in our case, feeding children, it's the child, it's the individual child. How do we keep that? How do we keep that motive pure? And I think that does require a kind of decision to do that, to recognize the risk that I think you articulated very well, and proactively do things about that. So how do you stay connected to the children? Some of us have the privilege, like you have, of actually going sometimes and meeting the children, and I've had that privilege over and over again, and it certainly is a privilege more than anything else. Sometimes people say to me when I'm traveling maybe to a country in Africa or war zone, oh, that must be so tough, and I always feel guilty because there are tough elements to it, but it's not, it's the opposite. It's a privilege. It's uplifting, So some of us have that privilege of knowing the children, and that helps enormously in staying connected to why am I really doing this, but not everyone has that privilege. So as an organization, one of our responsibilities, I feel, is how do we bring the child close to the donor in Iowa that's feeding the child in Liberia? How do we do that? How do we really work our communication so that feels real and in an appropriate way? How does that feel real, that connection? And so we do some slightly unusual things. Like I have a real aversion to targets, for example. A lot of people that have come in and worked with us, we were just actually having a strategic conversation this afternoon about our next 3-year growth plan, and the newer members of our team were kind of looking at me like I'm crazy. When I'm saying I don't like number targets because I think if we're not careful, we start serving the plan rather than the child, and we start thinking we're in control of everything when we never are. So of course you need a plan, of course you need a strategy, and of course we need goals of some sort, but we need to watch that subtle shift, from the child to the numbers, what makes me successful and important. So I don't pretend to know all the answers, and by the way, the things you called out, like the CNN thing and the time thing, it's not like that happens to me a lot. They're just two very strange things that happen in my life. I'm not normally in that kind of environment. I'm normally sitting here in the shed surrounded by all my pals of the guys I grew up here with in the village, and that certainly helps. It keeps you grounded as well.